Welcome to the Texas Consilium Show. I'm Michael Yorba, your host. My guest today is Sonny Vanderbeck. He is the managing partner of Satori Capital. Sonny, welcome to the show, and thanks for being here, and congratulations on
Thanks for
your
having me.
nomination for a Texas Business Excellent Award. Sonny, why don't we start off? You tell us about your business and yourself. Give us some color, some flavor about who you are and what your business does, what Satori Capital does.
Great. I'll give a quick bit of background. I think it's helpful to understand where I came from, to understand the business we're in now. I was an Army Ranger a long time ago in a place far, far away. Ended up after that at Microsoft, and then starting a company that I took public, sold, bought back again with some private equity folks, and then sold again in 2007. And along with a gentleman named Randy Eisenman, who was another entrepreneur, we were a bit dissatisfied with the state of investors when we went to go look for money for our businesses of significance. What we found was that a lot of investors had what as entrepreneurs seemed to be some challenges, namely that they had short-term time horizons. The nature of their capital was pretty short-term, and that in general they didn't actually understand our business. They hadn't made payroll, they hadn't grown businesses, closed businesses, et cetera. And so we ultimately said, look, let's build the investment firm that we wish we could have taken capital from. And so at its essence, Satori Capital is an investment firm. We invest both in operating companies that are typically, call it 25 to 250 million in revenue. And we also invest in other investment funds, also with an eye towards helping them grow and scale their business.
Okay. Thank you for that. Now, your vision for your business, looking forward, say 5 years or more, where would you like your business to be?
So I'll take us forward to what we hope the end will be. So much further than 5 years. So one of our underlying beliefs is that the business often sets the tone and pace for what it means to be human, what it means to be a citizen, the way that we experience our lives. And so what that means is that constructive and healthy, well-run businesses are a force for good in the world, maybe the most important force for good in the world. And the key insight for us is that investors often set the priorities for businesses. And so here's what we're out to do. We're out to change the investment community permanently. And it'll take a lifetime to do it. But if we can get, by proving our performance, other investors to have a longer term time horizon, care about crazy things like culture and customers and so forth, then we will make it a little easier for the next investment firm to care about those things too. And so when we think about competitive differentiation, our long-term vision is that our industry copies us so much that the things that make us different are no longer different. That's how we'll know our work is done, because when that work is done, all businesses will be better citizens in the world, and all people will have better places of employment, more enjoyable and fulfilled lives.
You've given me a lot of answers for my next question, but let me just at least give you the opportunity to answer that. What makes your business special? See if you can come back with something on that.
Yeah. So I'll give you three really specific things. One we already talked about, long-term time horizon. And it's one thing to say that, and it's entirely another thing to build your structures in a way that you can do that. So to be very precise, our investment structures, our agreements with our investors are built in a way whereby we can be an investor for an indefinite period of time. Could be 5 years, could be 55 years. There is no end to how long we can be a partner with a management team or an investment team. So that's item number one. Item number two is our belief is to make the investments and to be a good stewards of the investments. You actually have to know what it's like to be on the other side. So in both of our businesses, our teams, and myself and Randy included, have not only been investors in these things, but we've actually done the work. We've made payroll, grown teams, launched products, started investment firms, grown them, et cetera. And so it's one thing to be, I had a friend, he called it hitchhiking. And I think that's a useful pejorative for a lot of the reality of many investors. If you don't know anything about the business and you can't help and you just show up with a check and kind of hang around and eat free Jason's Deli sandwiches at board meetings, you're not actually helping. You're just hanging around and hitchhiking on results. In our case, because in many of these situations, we've actually been in the situation before, we'd like to think that we can actually make a real difference, that we'll both help make better decisions, and sometimes have good advice because we face those situations ourselves. So that's the second piece. The third piece is this idea around conscious capitalism. And here's the essence of conscious capitalism. What if profits are not a reflection of what I can get away with, of what I can take from a system, a customer, an employee, or so forth? What if profits are a reflection of how much value I can create for them? These companies that have happy customers and happy employees, and the communities love to see them there, they tend to have happy investors. And what we see is often missing is from the investment lens, they put themselves first. And our view is simply that if you put other stakeholders first as an investor, it's going to turn out just fine for you.
Well put. I really appreciate you putting it that way. It's inspirational thought. All right. Now,
Thank
the
you.
Texas Consilium Award is based on business excellence. So the criteria, they encompass such areas as customer satisfaction, operational excellence, employee satisfaction, business performance, and more. Describe how your company exemplifies excellence.
So I'll give you a couple of things, and one I'll start with our aspiration. Um, One of the ways that we articulate our long-term aspirations for these stakeholders, we talk about each of these sort of different groups as stakeholders, is to imagine ourselves as them in the future. And so for our team, what we aspire to is this. This is our life's work, and we could not imagine doing anything else. So imagine if you can build a culture that's strong enough that your team treats it as life's work, not as a place they go to earn a paycheck. For our portfolio investments, the thing that we aspire to have them say is simply, partnering with Satori was our best decision. We always want people to be able to look back on the decisions they made to be partners with us after a period of many years and to say that was one of the best decisions that we ever made. And you can imagine there's a lot of excellence encompassed in both of those. And then finally, with investors, the aspiration is simply, partnering with Satori was our best decision. We want our investors to just be able to say simply that was our best decision, and I would want to be involved with anything that Satori does. So that sort of sets the frame for, like, how do we think about excellence? What does that mean to us? In terms of individual dimensions, we can talk about lots of those down each one of the stakeholders. But in particular, I think one of the ones I'm most proud of is our team has rated Satori as a best place to work year after year in our industry. So we tend to place in the top, 4, depending on the year, nationwide for our industry in terms of being the best place to work. And then over the last few years in Texas, we have fortunately been able to continue to be awarded a best place to work, and again in Fort Worth, and again in Dallas. And so I think that's very much a starting place for excellence. So if I think about, like, how do you have an excellent business, or a business that professes or proclaims to be excellent, and the raw materials you're working with aren't the best? And so our starting place is who's on the team and what's their experience like. Does their work bring them fulfillment? Does their work bring them joy and passion and so forth? And so that, on the other side, you'll see things when you see, like, how do you do this stuff? Um, Most people that come to Satori suggest that our interview process, as an example, is a bit grueling. We've learned to forewarn people that, hey, this interview process is going to take a while because our culture matters very deeply to us, and that having the right people on the team will make the difference more than anything else long term. So I would say that our starting place for business excellence is, if you get the right team in the mix, the rest comes relatively naturally.
I agree with you 100%. Now, if you're speaking to an audience of Texas business leaders and they're wanting to improve their own business and through leadership. Um, Give us an idea through the journeys that you've had, what lessons you've learned that you'd most like to share.
So a couple of things come to mind. One actually starts with some advice that another Texan gave me, a gentleman named Jody Grant. And I think given the time that we're in, this particular one may be relevant. I was struggling with a rough economy and tough situations in our business and so forth. And Jody's advice to me was this. Jody said, look, you've been hired to fix the situation that the company's in. When you go into work tomorrow, don't be the person that left today. Be the new person. None of the decisions you made in the past mattered at all relative to what you have to deal with today. See it for what it is, like you're a brand new person and it's your very first day. And the decisions you need to make and what you need to do to get out of the situation you're in will become very clear. That was extraordinary advice for me at the time, and I continue to give it to other CEOs. The second one, again, back on team a little bit, um, I've got an article about red, yellow, green, and I'm going to give you the 30-second download on this because it's really practical and it works. You will have on your leadership team, anybody that manages people, generally three groups of people. And my advice to you is go figure out who they are and then take action. The first group, the people that are qualified to serve in their current role at twice the company's current size. These are your greens. These are the people that are going to pull your company forward. You should be recognizing them, acknowledging them, developing them, bringing them lots of special new projects, etc. Your yellows. Those are people that are doing a great job at the company's current size, but without leadership development and growth for them in particular, the company will outgrow them. And so my challenge to you with them is figure out a development plan that helps develop them as leaders as fast as the company's growing. And then finally, the last group, the group that was very capable at half the company's current size. This is one of the realities of a growing business. As individuals, we all develop at our own rates, and sometimes companies outgrow an individual's development rate. And so my challenge is to identify those people whose the role is now larger than the person's capability and find a good role for them in the company. If you can find those three groups of people and unleash that talent, it will change your company's ability to grow, and in particular, your company's ability to sustain growth over time.
Well put, well put. And you're the only person I've heard come up with the red, yellow, green process. That's going to be unique in the interview series. Let me move forward, if I may. The concept and the implementation of social responsibility is now more in the forefront than it ever has been. Can you tell us your culture and your action with social responsibility for Satori Capital?
Sure. So for social responsibility, first a little bit of framing. I think an important dimension for us around social responsibility comes back to our idea around what role does business serve in the world. And so if you believe that business is one of the most powerful forces in the world, that it sets the tone for cultures and communities and societies. What that means is that leaders, we hold a very special place in the world, and the actions that we take or don't take can have a dramatic effect on what it means to live in a city or live in a country. And so we think this is very important, and it's at the essence of business. Now, with that said, we're always careful with the idea of social responsibility as an add-on. My belief and advice around social responsibility is if it's something that you're tacking on to your business, try harder. Find a way to make this at the essence of who you are as a business, deeply ingrained with your strategy. And so I'll give you an example, actually a great example from one of our portfolio companies. We have a portfolio company that recycles more plastic water bottles than Nike does in their recycled line. They just never talked about it. It was the funniest thing. They did it for years because it was at the essence of their business and their strategy, And then they looked up one day and said, wow, we should talk about this more. We think that's a very different action than doing an add-on somewhere and saying, well, we're going to donate money. My advice broadly is there are times and places for those kinds of things where it's a giving back. But my real position is like, don't take anything in the first place. Live your life in a way and run your business in a way that it, the net existence of your business creates value in the world.
Well put. Well put. Your legacy. Tell Sonny, give us your thoughts when you think about your legacy, what you want to leave.
So a few things come to mind. One, I think, is to create companies that can actually change the industry. And so in this particular case, if we have an effect on the finance business, so we go back to my earlier conversations about purpose and where we're headed over time, that the way we articulate our business's purpose is to create, fund, and inspire businesses that elevate humanity. Like that's a tall order. That's kind of life's work level stuff. And if we can get other people to do that too, even just a little bit, it'll have a dramatic effect on all businesses. So in this respect, I'm playing big. I hope to have a bit of a fingerprint everywhere. And just as important is to create cultures both in our own companies and in our portfolio companies that allow people to thrive so that they can create their own legacies. Whatever it is that they want to do in the world, what brings them joy and passion and fulfillment and what they consider to be their life's work, if we can make places that support and inspire that for individuals, then we've done good work ourselves.
Well put. Sonny, thank you for taking the time. Again, congratulations on your nomination. And that concludes the video portion of our show today. So don't hang up, but I want to thank you for taking the time to be on our show and giving us great answers to those questions.
Thank you.